Get ready to dive deep into Buffalo's vibrant music scene because we're stepping inside the fabulous Flamingo Lounge for the 9th season of local music magic. In the Flamingo Lounge with Rockabilly Greg is more than just a podcast. It's a collection of stories that delves deep into the vibrant musical history of Buffalo and Western New York, creating a living archive where each story adds a unique thread to the overall narrative. This season, we're taking a deep dive into the heart of the music community. Join us for personal conversations with musicians and industry pros where we celebrate the collective creativity that makes our favorite artists, venues, and events so special. But before we get started, I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors, CatsLikeUs.com, Diamond Hawk Golf Course and Pub, and valued supporter Buffalo Ironworks for helping to keep the music alive. This week's episode falls on a very special day for the audiophiles, the crate diggers, and the music obsessed. It is Record Store Day, and we are celebrating in the best way possible. Joining us is a man who has turned his passion for vinyl into a Western New York institution. Phil Machemer started his journey in 2010, selling records out of his garage. Fast forward to today, and he's the owner of Revolver Records, operating the two largest shops in the region. His Elmwood Village location isn't just a store. It's a vital Buffalo venue where local and national acts take the stage every week. On top of running a vinyl empire, Phil is a proud father of 3 and was recently inducted into the Niagara Wheatfield Senior High School Wall of Fame in 2025. Phil, happy Record Store Day, and welcome to the Flamingo Lounge.
Hey, happy Record Store Day. Thank you so much for having me.
So it's for those of us who like to collect, it's our national holiday.
Yeah.
So I don't go as much anymore. I kind of wait. I'm like, I figured out early on that the stuff I like is still there.
It might still be there. I think that's that should be the vibe. I feel like we'll get calls and I want this release and you only have 4 of them. I'm like, you know what? How many people in Buffalo do you think want that very obscure release? But yeah, definitely. I would suggest the same thing. Come out because we get a lot of stuff and there's a good chance we have what you're looking for.
Well, before we kind of dive into all that, I want to ask you. So I always ask musicians if they had an aha moment when music's what they said they wanted to do. But did you have a time when you heard a song and you went, man, and then that kind of turned into your passion for records?
I've always been really passionate about music and record collecting, and I guess it depends on what you mean by aha moment as far as when I started loving music or when I decided that I wanted to open a record store. I guess I don't know which side we're going to go.
Well, let's go with music first because there's 2 different aha questions there, right?
Yeah, they're really for me it's a little different. Yeah. But music wise, the first music that I really got into probably was and this was late for me because I was born in 1987, and but grunge. When I was a kid, I was a huge Pearl Jam fan. And like I said, I was the only person in my house school that gave a shit about Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Alice in Chains. And that just was the first thing. And it's interesting because that stuff still does really resonate with me. I feel like Eddie Vedder is in my wheelhouse as far as my vocal range for myself. I'm not a singer, but I love to sing a lot. Mm-hmm. And I like to sing like Eddie Vedder because who doesn't? Because it sounds really fun. And so I feel like I resonated with that, and it was this is even in the face of what was popular. I didn't care that none of my friends liked Pearl Jam or Nirvana, and that that really made me feel connected to music. I spent a lot of time on the bus when I was a kid. My house was 45 minutes away or something from school, and so I would be on the bus with my headphones on, and I just would crank it all the way up. And I mean, I remember walking into school as if I had a superpower. This was me. I know this is something that I know that nobody else knows about. Right. And this is making me feel a certain way, and I could give a shit if they understand that or not. You know? Yeah. And not to say that I didn't share music with friends. I was in bands in high school. Right. I have 100 copies of a CD I made my senior year. I'll give you one to tack on the wall.
There you go.
But anyway, I mean that was, it probably wasn't a one moment thing, but that's what strikes me is being a kid on the bus, this was, I feel that. I can feel it now. My head against the glass, listening to Deftones or something like that.
Right.
And I know that's not grunge, but, just really, really soaking up the music, and realizing that this is not just, a hobby for me. This is
right.
And then obviously to kind of go into the second part of that. I mean, everybody would love to make money doing what they're passionate about. And, not to say when I was a kid, a dream wasn't to be in like a successful rock band or something like that. I'm not, obviously, as I got older and that wasn't the path I chose, that was okay. And records became, a way that I made money. And it was something that I became an expert on very early. And I became an expert because I had to in order to make money. And then once I had my daughter, that's when I quit my job. And I decided that I'm going to do this full time. I had a conversation with my ex-wife and I said, hey, I was working at the casino in Niagara Falls as a valet. I was there for 7 years and I was working less and less shifts doing that, more and more selling records. And I just decided to quit and focus on records full time. But essentially, as a means to feed my family, I realized that I can do this and make money enough to survive. And like I said, it's not like the most romantic, love. About, though I just so happen to also be very passionate about record collecting. There are guys that are more passionate about record collecting than I am.
Right.
But it's a mix between like the will to survive and to make money for your family, but also not want to have a boss.
Right.
Like that was really it. I didn't want to work at the casino anymore. And then also, hey, I could pull this off and realizing that it's something that I can do for a living. And,
right.
But even back then, when I quit, I still was just in the garage. I didn't have a shop. We're on a podcast right now. One of the most famous podcasters of all time, Machemer. I don't know if you're familiar with his podcast, but he had a podcast called WTF. It's comedy, stand-up comedy.
Right.
But he was in town doing a stand-up show at Helium the week that I quit my job. And he was a record collector, and he visited my garage. and that was like one of those things where it was like, in that same week, I had bought one of the best collections I've ever bought in my life. And I still is like, it's unbelievable. It's a big promo collection. All this, there was a white label promo of Zeppelin 1 or Zeppelin 2 in there, which is insane. There was like in the Court of the Crimson King, white label promo, things that I have never seen again in that collection. And then Mark Maron came to my garage in the same weekend. I was like, I absolutely, if there was ever a sign that I made the right decision, that this is that.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's as close as I could say to the answer to that.
Yeah.
Is that,
now, how do you get versed in, let's use the Led Zeppelin album. I mean, there's the standard old ones, and then there's the Holy Grail. How do you, first of all, because I know it's writing in the wax
nuances,
but how do you know, like, what kind of like references are there, what's out there for someone to be able to check this and go, oh, sure, this is the good one?
Sure. And what's interesting is like, okay, I mean, first of all, there's a website now called Discogs that you can look all this stuff up.
Right.
But when I started, that didn't exist. And I talk about this a lot. There was a scene of record collecting, and I don't know if this is something you ever, if you ever went out to Antique World when that was the thing. Maybe you know about.
Oh yeah.
So 20 plus years ago, there was two large dealers out there, good friends of mine, Bob the record guy,
right?
And Brad, I don't know that he sells records anymore, but it was I could name 20 guys who are still in the scene locally, if they're still alive, that would go out there every single Sunday. Every single Sunday, you might know my buddy Jake Brockway. He works at, he used to do sound at Sportsman's, and he's just in the music scene. We would wake up I used to work overnight, so I'd leave at 7 in the morning. Either grab him or meet him out there at 7:30, and we wanted to see the new stuff that they had out there. And these were like the biggest collectors in the city would gather at this place to find, and this was before Discogs. It was 20 years ago.
Right.
And, that's where I learned about records, because I'd sit there and talk to Bob, I'd talk to Brett, I'd talk to all these different guys. George Paleo was out there every week.
Right.
And I met so many guys from being out there, and we would just learn about that. I mean, I learned, okay, well, this is I am essentially become an expert on Beatles albums, because I know the pressings that they started with. It goes from the Rainbow Capital label, then there's the Apple label, then there's the Green Capital, then there's a Red Capital, then there's a Purple Capital, then they went back to the Rainbow Capital. You know what I'm saying? So like you learn the order of these things because it's important. You know how to value your shit. And but then Discogs came along, and there's still an old school. Like if Bob was with me now, he would probably agree that like it's so nuanced with the dead wax, and you're looking into different pressings, and Bob Dylan, he's gonna have 10 different first pressings or whatever. It's that kind of stuff. It gets a little bit too nuanced for like even a serious collector. Like I'm a very serious collector. Bob is a very serious collector, but he might not care so much about those nuances. But essentially now, if you're asking, how do we find that out? Well, you just have to look things up on Discogs, and you have to figure out, why your copy or whatever the copy you're looking to buy or you're interested in is different than another copy. I mentioned white label promos. There's, label variations. There's different addresses on the labels. There's just like, Blue Note Records is going to have a different pressing, from the 50s as they had in the 60s and even in the 70s. And so just learning, and I learned all these things because that's how I made money. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that would be how I would go about figuring that stuff out. Now I know there could be a class taught about how to value your record collection, but there are ways of researching it in Discogs. At least right now, there are other sites too for obscure things, but that's where I would go.
Oh, that's great, because as you could tell, I am a collector.
Yeah.
Of course, your shop has kind of fed my my thirst for good stuff, and and of course Bob, he helped me with the local stuff.
He's
learning all of which was I'm a big fan. I've tried to collect everything I can of Wild Weekend.
Yeah,
and you can see I got the sheet music on the wall, and
wow,
wow,
yeah, look at that.
Signed by the Kipplers and Tommy Shannon before he passed, he signed that for me.
That's so cool. Yeah.
But there's knowing the difference of which Marley label came first, like you said, and then there was the first one, and then if it has a rubber stamp on it. I actually got one online because someone says, "Oh, there's a rubber stamp on it." They had it like for $2.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, "No, that's the actual, a real radio played, version of that."
Yeah.
But that's what they did.
That's what it looked
then.
like. Yeah.
So that's not an oops.
Yeah,
that's a real McCoy kind of a thing. So
that's, kind of what you're talking about is like just from having two different copies next to each other and seeing the difference. I mean, that's how we see it. One thing that I recall Bob telling me this, and 9 times out of 10, if there's additional information, which would make sense, that's a later pressing. They're not going to have less information on a later pressing unless there's other, that, a label that has, XYZ, it would look different if it was, something. But I mean, that's the love of the hobby is like, I have, first of all, you want to keep the best one. You spent $20 on a copy, and then you see another one for $1 at a garage sale that's really clean. Well, you got to go home and compare yours. Right. There's a stack of records in my house of things that I have to compare to others to see which ones I want to sell. That's part of collecting. Unfortunately, I have an outlet for all of those. Right. But not everybody does. Some people will bring them in, that kind of stuff, into trade, or they'll sell them on Discogs themselves. But but comparing them, and you're like, wait, I actually have a different pressing. This is not the same thing, or this is an import, or this is I don't know, a bootleg even. Like with the Beatles, there's certain records that were bootlegged.
Right. Yeah, and that's and I've learned too. Like, I was, people that are familiar with the podcast know I was on the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, and when, Lenny O'Henry, what the heck was his real name? He had
I know what you're talking about
on the beach labels, and it's like, okay, this one's an actual bootleg, and then being the printer, and because I'm a printer by trade, I'm like, oh, I can see why that's the bootleg because they couldn't pull this off the actual label when something dropped
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
Cameras couldn't pick that up, and I'm like, aha.
That's interesting. I guess you mentioned earlier about printing. I went to school for printing,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a small background in printing, but I have a really great appreciation for it and art as a whole.
Right.
I'm a big art history guy, and I think like I remember friends of mine be like, well, how could you tell it? Like I can touch a cover and know that it's an import,
Right.
or just from the paper, just from the
Right.
look of it, and that's something that I would assume you do well as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can
that's one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, smell it.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's a lot of good smells in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Or like the inside paper is a little yellowed or something, or like Canada. Like one thing, like they use different inner sleeves, and they have these inner sleeves that look almost more like a brown paper bag that has like a little notching to the top of it. I'm like, I know this is a Canadian pressing just by the look of it.
Right.
But it's cool that you have that too, because I feel like that it absolutely goes hand in hand, and that may have been something that helped me early on.
Yeah.
As well. That's cool. Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those things like, oh, this is a slightly different print. So
Yeah.
there's some, and,
Or even like a bad print job,
yeah, yeah. When I've had people say like, when do you become a completist, and when do you not? Like,
Yeah.
like there's some artists that I'll have maybe 1 or 2 copies of their records, and I'm fine with that. But like, as you can tell, I'm a Stray Cats guy. I'm a Brian Setzer guy, so I want to have everything.
Everything.
And I've got,
yeah.
I'm pretty much have all the regular stuff, and now it's bootlegs that I gotta.
Oh, I
and
love
you can go
bootlegs.
nuts.
I love bootlegs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
do.
can go nuts buying those because there's.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot. Yeah. I mean, as once again, as like a DI, like as a fan of printing, like you almost, even though, a lot of bootlegs are done pretty poorly,
Right.
like there has to be an appreciation done for people making their own products. I mean, this is a sidestep for sure, but like last year, I went to a camp out in Arizona with a friend of mine to learn about lathe cutting. And I don't know what you know about lathe cutting, but it was fascinating. And I didn't really know much, but the idea is that you can buy a machine and you can make whatever you want. And it just would be in small batches, essentially in maybe a little bit faster than real time.
Yeah.
But I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Right.
I've had since I went there, I've had 100 ideas of things that, man, if I had a lathe, I would be pressing all kinds of shit,
Yeah.
and obviously there's not, copyrights and things like
Yeah.
that. But there's things that the things I'm thinking about making will never exist. And I'm like, man, I would just love to have a physical copy of, one really good example is like Saturday Night Live performances. Like that's something that I'd love to talk about. Like there's a famous bootleg of Devo's Satisfaction. They did a cover of Rolling Stone's Satisfaction on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Fantastic. And there's a bootleg 7-inch of that, and it's like a $50 or $60 7-inch.
Wow.
And like if they ever pressed that, it would be a huge hit. Oh, that was a Record Store Day single. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
There was a series that someone put out.
Yeah.
Of even just SNL performances. But just think about the logistics of that, paying NBC some money, paying the artist, and there's nothing involved. There's no actual profit involved, and no one's going to make any. They'll never do it. I mean, there's so many classic SNL performances that would be really cool to have. But anyway, I mean, we're getting, like I said, sidestep, but I love the idea of people making their own records. That's super cool.
Well, the one that I've got from Record Store Day was the Minor Birds.
Oh yeah.
When that one came out, and of course that's Rick James.
Oh yes, yeah, okay. I
with,
didn't know that
with
off the top
Neil,
of my head, but that makes sense. Yeah.
Neil Young,
exactly.
And
yeah,
I remember I was in the university store of
Record
a record theater, years ago, and Bob Silvestri was there, and of course anyone who's around, and Bob's another big collector and archivist, and he's like, buy this.
Yeah.
He says, you got to have this. He says, He put it right in my hand. He says, that's Rick James.
That's your bag.
Because it says Rick Matthews, I think, on the
that's
front.
funny.
But I know both Tuesday Night, Sarah and Courtney, and Stress Dolls, Chelsea O, they've both made lathe cuts that I have.
Yeah.
And
they
don't play all that great, but
no, it's not. It's
from
not
a
meant for
collector.
playing.
I'm like, I have to have it.
It's a collectible piece. Yeah, they're not. It's not a good quality. Well, that's one thing I learned about too. There's a few ways of cutting lathes that there's a better quality way, but it's way more expensive.
Right.
And it almost becomes ridiculous. But like lathe cutting is a collectible. It's a collectible that you can play, but it's not, it's not something you're going to want to play all the time. But I mean, when it comes down to collecting records, I mean, when you have easily 1,000 or more, I didn't count anything here.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do you play each individual one?
Oh.
Even if you play records every day,
Right.
there's going to be things that you played once or twice.
Yeah.
So it's not unbelievable to say that you have a collectible, hand numbered 7-inch on clear vinyl, that's lathe cut. Like, that's cool. That's really, I love it. I really love that kind of stuff.
It's probably my favorite record store day record of all time was the 78 that Jack White put out of Elvis's first.
The first recording.
My Happiness, and the whole story that he bought. He bought it for like $200,000-$300,000, I think, at auction.
Wow. Yeah.
And then meticulously, redid it, pressed. It had a limited edition press. It was record store day only,
That's super cool shit.
Yeah. It's I was fortunate to find one. And after record store day, because I went everywhere. Of course, they were all gone, and I was out.
That was
in front of one store. I mean, at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh my God! Wow,
it was gone already.
Jesus, yeah. Well, I'm glad you ended up getting one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely there's stuff. It's funny. I mean, every this is the cycle of record store day every year. This is our 10th one. 10th one. My first year, I opened Hurdle in 2015, but we didn't do record store day. It was already past record store day. So I know for a fact our first one was 2016. The list comes out maybe a month ago. So that you have a month or two before record store day. Everyone shits on the list. The list sucks. This is the worst list I've ever seen.
Right.
I can't imagine. And then as, even the hardcore guys go through, it's like, but there's one thing that I need this one.
Mm-hmm.
I need this thing. And then as it gets closer, like, well, there's maybe 2 or 3 other things.
Right.
And then by the day or the week of, they're calling me, asking me how many copies I got of certain things. They want to know, is this a record store day first, or is it a record store day exclusive? And they'll come and they'll buy 10 things, and not everybody, but there's at least 10 things that, so I've grown to understand that and not necessarily listen to the hype right off the bat.
Yeah.
And certainly when we do our orders, I mean, it's a very different ball game than it was 10 years ago. There's back then, I don't know the numbers, but I would guess it was now there's somewhere like 10 or 1,200 shops that do record store days. I always remember it hovering around 1,000, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's more now. It's always more every year. But back then it was probably like 500 or 600 shops. So if there's 1,000 copies of something, I mean, some of those guys aren't going to order it. So there's a chance I could get 4 or 5 or 6, Now there's 1,000 copies. I might not even get one. And there's a lot of things that are just, this is allocated to one per shop. And what sucks is we put in orders together, and we try to hedge our bets and maybe order from different places, but we'll get one for 2 shops, or at one point we were getting one for 4, and I'd have to argue with these guys and be like, listen, we're putting in one order for 4 things. Can you please consider that we have 4 shops? There's 4 lines of people waiting for this stuff. So I mean, it is complicated, and people do get upset about not getting the things that they want, and that's always a problem. But there's only so much we can do.
Exactly. I know I've missed on some stuff, and it's like, okay, it's but if you wait a couple of months after record store day, the eBay will
almost
will
always
settle down.
It either is or it's the opposite. But more than likely, there's way. I have suggestions for people. You can't find it locally anywhere. The next day, so it's on Saturday. There's a rule about selling online that we have to follow. That we have to. I don't know what. I mean, there's a lot of people that are probably listening. Have no idea how serious it is. You have to sign a pledge for each individual location saying that you're not going to break any of the rules. And some of them are fairly obvious. You can't sell anything early. You can't mark up the records above a percentage of suggested retail. Now that's something that is debatable, because one distributor will have the suggested retail as one thing and one will have another, etc. But we always follow that rule. There are if we order 20 of something and we only got 2, that would be something we might max out our percentage that we can have the price at.
Right.
But if there's something that we ordered 50 and we got 50, that one will probably stick to the retail because we'd like to sell them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's just part of the process. But we have to abide by those rules. One of the other things is that you can't sell them until it's like 8 a.m. our time Sunday morning is when
Okay.
you can now sell online. And it's a process. Like I said, we've done this. I mean, since COVID, we've had the store website. But before that, I would just be at the store at 8 a.m. and I would be zapping shit into Discogs or eBay.
Right.
And I'd be selling individual items. But now, like they go live on our website every year. It's like I get a text from Ben. He's my buyer. He lives in Chicago, and but I'm like, I don't even have to ask him. He knows. It's at 8 o'clock in the morning. He's up, and then he'll just give a thumbs up text that it's up there. And then I start seeing the sales come in. Sometimes, there a handful of times over the years, people have shared us online, and we have a bank of stuff left over. And
Okay.
like a bigger city, we might have more than them. But they could buy from me, and I could ship it to them. But yeah, so essentially, if you're not seeing what you want, the very next day at 8 a.m., you should be on Discogs reloading the screen because someone's going to sell it, and they're going to want to play by the rules, and it might be a $20 record that's going for 80, but they can only sell for 24, because they can only go 20% over.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that would be the time to do it. And I've heard of guys finding that, or even just watching it on Discogs and waiting for the price to kind of cool off.
Yeah.
Auctions are always a fine idea as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's options. And for the most part, people are getting the things they want unless it's just unbelievably limited.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, there's the flippers, that
There's flippers.
that pisses everybody off. And of course, will you only sell like one copy?
That was another rule. Yeah, you can only sell one. And I am like so strict about that. I mean, if you go to the other location and it's there, well then, yeah, you could buy it there. You know what I mean? That's great. But I can't, my buddy's home. I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about that. I can't break this rule. There's 10 people behind you that want it too. And
Right.
Is it fair that I let you skip ahead of them to buy? No, that's absurd. That's silly to even consider it. We always get some people that whine and don't understand the rules. Why do I have to wait? I just want, it's like,
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's like, do I go to Transit first or
Sure,
I go to
sure.
Elmwood
Yeah,
first?
yeah,
It's like, damn.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
You never know. And this year we're just split. I mean, there's only 2 shops, so we're splitting it right down the middle. There might, I guess we'll have to make judgment calls. I don't know. We haven't decided like if there's only one, where's it going to go? Sometimes I wouldn't be surprised if we decide, Transit, because there just tends to be a bigger line there. But like Elmwood is becoming very popular too. And so, we don't know. So to me, I would probably make the argument to split them as evenly as possible. We always put out a list of everything that we're getting, and so we try to let people know about stuff. But yeah, I've been I always lose sleep the night before. I'm watching the cameras to make sure no one like it broken. What's nice is, almost every year now there's people out there right when we close the night before. And they have their car. If it's cold out, they're in their car and they put their seat out there or whatever.
Right.
Or if it's not, they'll just stand outside. Or and you think they're going to let somebody come in and steal the records they're waiting for? Probably not.
Right.
It's kind of like built-in security guards, outside of there. But
Yeah.
but I still lose sleep. I'm still like,
Yeah.
and I got to get there. But it's always exciting. It's always cool.
Yeah.
To see so many people come in. We're always. Even though it's been a harder last year and a half or so for this type of retail business with the economy and that, it's always, I feel like we always safely do better than I think we're going to do on Record Store Day, and
Right.
It's just been very consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, for having been out there, I think the earliest I've gotten is like 6 a.m. I haven't
Sure.
been one of
Yeah.
those overnighter guys, but and that was usually I'd be 25th in line.
Sure, sure.
But the camaraderie, though, it's just a bunch, men and women just who love records, who love music, who are talking about their favorite music. What are you here to buy?
Yeah.
Some people are like, "Are you here to get the record I want?" If they're
Right,
behind,
right.
especially if they're
They
behind you.
start
You're
counting.
like,
They start counting, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Well, I heard they only got 4 copies. There's 5 people that want this online. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna go home. Or,
Yeah.
I'll go in line somewhere else. And I
Right.
get that.
So-
But yeah, the camaraderie is huge. I feel
Yeah.
like I've heard of so many people. What'll happen is like the line. Okay, hey, we're gonna get going. We're gonna move. And then, the one person will go and buy what they want and cash out. But there's like, oh, hey, bye. Great talking to you guys. See you around. I'm going to go home to bed. I've been up all night. And that's, I know. I mean, yeah, I feel like that. I like that. I mean, that's, we love that in general. That's what being in a record store is all about. I mean, that's
sure.
That's why people want to keep these kinds of places alive, is the idea to come in and talk about music and share new music and listen to, hear new something. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Right. Which that's a good segue, because I want to talk about the new store on Elmwood. Of course, your first Elmwood store was right across the street in a smaller spot. And now it's a great spot right across from Lexington Co-op, but you got live music.
Yeah.
And that's kind of bringing back that whole, that experience and that ambiance of listening to especially local people, local musicians. I know you get national guys there too. My good buddy Scott Reynolds was there a while back, and I came down to see him, and it was awesome to see him play. And it's too bad not enough people came out to actually see him.
Oh, right.
But that
does happen sometimes.
That happens. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I always feel, sometimes I'm like, man, this was such a great time. I wish more people were here to see it. We've discussed, in the future, and there's a lot of logistics behind this, but like streaming some of the stuff that we do, and just having recordings of it, because there have been some really, really incredible performances that we have clips of, and we have decent video of, and we're doing better with that. I mean, to talk about what we're doing there, I mean, in the face of, like I said, the economy hurting, for small businesses like mine, this venue has been trending upward for us consistently since the beginning, and it makes me feel really good, because whenever we do get out of this whatever rut that we're in, I feel like it's just going to get even better.
Sure.
And I always tell people, I mean, we can talk about it, and we're going to continue to talk about it, but like seeing what is going on in there, and the vibe, I hear the word vibes a lot.
Yes.
And it even goes beyond what it feels like in there, and the smell and the sound. I'm really proud of the diversity of acts that we have been able to have in that space, and everyone talks about how comfortable they feel in there, and how it's just a very loving, expressing environment.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that, I'm sorry, I don't know if there was something. Oh,
no, that was great.
No, I didn't know if it wasn't, there was an issue there. Okay. But no, I'm just really proud of it. Last 2 weeks ago, in one weekend, we had a comedy show, and then we had an insane, like, pop-up hip-hop show with this artist named Jay Electronica. That's a whole nother, a ball game to talk about, but that was something that we did. It came out of left field, and it was an insane event that we were really proud about, and it's already opened some other doors. But then the next day, we had the Damone Jackson Outcome play. Yeah. So, I mean, they're one of the most amazing local bands, and just you talk about vibes. I mean, watching these guys play is a joy. It is one of my favorite things in the whole world, is to see these guys play, and each one of the guys in themselves are incredible musicians. Anyway, I could talk about them for hours. I love them so much. But then then we had a rock show on Sunday, and that's 1 week. To have all these different types of things, and everyone go smoothly. It's a I don't know. I mean, it really has been a very, very exciting thing. And, this weekend we have, well, I shouldn't, because this is going to air at a different time.
Right.
But every month we do a show with this local rapper named Neftali. And it's called a Sessions show. And essentially he's an incredible rapper, but he plays behind a jazz band, which is fronted by Dominic Masana, who works with me in the shop. And, I mean, it's exciting stuff. People are, as we're sitting here, I see people buying tickets for that show, in the future. And I don't know, it's exciting. Yeah. We're really excited about it.
So now you've gone past Friday and Saturday, because I know that was kind of what
what we were doing for a while. And now, so tonight we have a show. I don't know if we have anything going on this. I have a kind of a private event on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, we were working on more weekday shows. And look, that's the thing. It's like, hey, we want to get into your place and we want something next month. Well, hey, we're all booked on every Friday and Saturday, but if you want to cool with a Thursday, we can pull that off. And some of the Thursday and Sunday shows have been bangers. I mean, just really people come out. There was a Sabres game, and after the Sabres game, people were pouring in, and they just enjoy the show. So I mean, we're still learning. There's a lot to learn about this business because it's not. I've only owned a record store for the last 10 years, but I have great people behind me helping me out, and they really understand the business. They understand the local scene, and we want to make sure that the artists are comfortable, they get paid, and you know what I mean. It's good. We have great equipment. I don't know. It's been a roller coaster. But it's something that we only want to do more of and expand upon.
Right. Well, and I definitely think, especially at the Elmwood store, that there is a vibe because the way you got it decorated is just the coolest damn thing. Because you got those big letters, that are lit that you can see Revolver from the outside, but they're reversed, on the inside. So the graphic designer in me just goes nuts. That's so cool. It's it got a disco ball and it's got the
lights.
It's 2 stories high, and you've got your back line and all the equipment, so people can just come in and kind of plug in, play, and
we got a beautiful Rhodes piano there. Yeah. I mean, just really, it's a cool thing. I mean, I do love how it looks. My buddy David Mitchell, I got to give him credit for that. He's done a lot of projects in the Elmwood Village and outside the Elmwood Village. He actually, we talked before we started about AKG. He's done work for AKG. I mean, he just incredible designer. He really was like the real architect of this project. And like to me, ever since this is like, we could talk about this Elmwood shop a little more, where I used to joke like, oh man, it's a people would come in and I love your store, and I almost felt like, man, this is just like what I had in my garage, and I moved that into this room, and this is what it was. And I have a great selection of records, but it was always like I was settling for what I was able to afford, as far as it wasn't about design, it was about reason, I can't think of the word, but like making the most out of the space that I had. It wasn't that I cared about that it looked necessarily pretty, but it was that it was functional. It was more functional than designed. And so this place was the first time it was like, well, hey, we can make decisions about. I have somebody who has the capability of making our ideas come true. Like I'm not a handy person, and somebody who's also an artist be able to come in and have these ideas. And he had the idea for the disco ball and for these lights in the window, and like I'm like, man, I wouldn't have even known that was a possibility. And there's a lot of once that ball rolls, it's like, well, shit, I what else can we do? And there's so that's kind of how that rolled out, and he was like a master of using inexpensive materials to make something look really cool.
Right.
He had gotten to start working in at Urban Outfitters, and if you know anything about the mall store or Urban Outfitters, that's exactly what that place is. They have, it looks really cool, but it also is made with like plywood and like caster wheels, and it's just not it's not an expensive looking layout, but it is very cool. But yeah, so I like I said, I mean, all in all, we are just really proud of that store. We work every day to make it better, and we just are always open to more ideas, and that we've been getting calls from some pretty cool national acts that want to do intimate shows in there. So I mean, I could see it only getting bigger, getting bigger.
Yeah, that's and the one thing that especially being in the Elmwood Village, kind of surprises me that did you run into any historical type landmark status? You can't do
with that building. Not yet. I mean, we've run into other red tape, and there's always hoops to jump through. Right. And like I said, I'm learning a lot about this. To have a tavern license is a huge hoop to jump through. So I mean, we're learning, and I mean, I feel like if there is something like this, and if there was a place that it was going to do well, it's going to be the Elmwood Village. Right. This is. Yeah. I mean, that's where it all started. And I always say, I mean, just recently we had to close my Hurdle location, and now, I mean, there's a lot of emotions in that. You know, we understand that was my first shop, but like, I don't. I mean, I don't. You know, not to say anything bad about that neighborhood, but like my initial dream was to have a store in the Elmwood Village, but I mean that was beyond anything I could have imagined.
Sure.
You know, I can't afford a shop on Elmwood. That's insane. And now I have the biggest record shop that's ever been on Elmwood Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And and so we were able to pull this. I really have this venue. So like, I mean, it's so as much as it's sad to close that Hurdle shop, you know, that shop's 10 minutes away from the Elmwood shop, and I feel like, you know, if you want to support my business, you know, make the trek over to the Elmwood Village and check this beautiful place out. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's how I feel about it. But I mean, obviously I miss that place. I mean, there's days where how simple it was, just me, and at the beginning, my ex-wife worked like Sundays, but like, you know, to think about how simple things were back then, sometimes is a daydream. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you know, how happy I am to be able to do the things that we're able to do now. It's awesome. It's a beautiful thing.
Now, do you split your time between the two stores? Or?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. You know, I do a lot. I mean, I'm still like, you know, all the business aspect of the shop is me. You know, dealing with permits and dealing with vendors and money and, you know, that kind of stuff. And so I have guys to be at the physical stores for the most part. Though recently I have, you know, been covering regular shifts, which I always love to do as well. I mean, that's, you know, but yeah, I mean, essentially on the schedule, I have about half time here, half time there. But there's, you know, when there's a project to be done, well, all of February I spent in the Hurdle shop. You know, I essentially dismantled that entire store by myself, and I moved everything out. You know, and decided where it was going to go, and I because the other guys had to be the other shops. You know, and I didn't. You know, I wanted to take care of it. It was one of these things. So it's like I have to go out and you know, I was going to say, I'm not going to say it. I have to take care of this. This is something that I have to take care of.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I spent a whole month in there by myself. But yeah, so wherever I need to be, I guess that's the answer. Is like you know, I have me and my guys, we essentially decide what needs to be done on a daily basis. You know, people have their jobs that we need to take care of. There's order, but there's also, you know, flexibility, and that's obviously very important to me. I just had a baby 6 months ago, and so I just you know, there's a lot. I have a lot of balls in the air, you know, essentially. But I love it. I love hustling. I've been a hustler my whole life, and this is no time to stop that. You know, this is really what I do best. I work best under pressure. I know I'm not afraid of working. I'm not afraid of labor. You know, I've lifted more boxes of records than anybody you name it. I think I carry them like a barrel over my shoulder. That's how we move stuff. So I love it.
Right. Now, and of course, you got a lot of folks that work for you that they know their stuff. They know their stuff. Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, my team is incredible. And actually I just got word that one of my guys, Eric, is leaving in the summer, and we, you know, I get choked up about it. It's like losing a brother. You know what I mean? He's been my best friend for the last, he started around COVID. So, you know, last 5-6 years he's been working with us, and he's like, you know, he's like a utility player. I mean, he does everything for us. Literally, he's just such an incredible guy. But yeah, the knowledge that, you know, that these guys have. Matt, we talked about Matt earlier. You know, he knows more about 45s than anybody I've ever met in my entire life. It's just, and it's a passion, you know, that, and I feel very lucky. I mean, even on any random day, anytime we do interviews to hire new people, there's going to be, you know, X amount of people that are just like really passionate about records, and we always can pick them out. I mean, it's like, you know, when we get done with the interview, I'm like, we got to keep this guy around. Like, there's got to be some way we get, you know, there's guys that might not necessarily be the most personable people, or they just, you know, I don't know, they might not have experience with what we do, but I'm like, this guy's a record collector, and that's really the most important thing, you know.
but yeah, I mean, I think with this type of business, it's not like I'm running a gas station here.
Yeah.
You're not going to get someone that's really passionate about pumping gas. I mean,
Yeah.
you might, but you get a lot of people that are passionate about music.
Sure.
So I've been able to cherry pick, really wonderful people to help me out through the years. And I'm really, really thankful for that. I mean, we talked a little bit about the venue, but and then Dominic Masana, without his expertise with that, we couldn't do this. I mean, he has so many connections, and he's passionate as hell about what we're doing. Like he's on board for this, and these guys are just. I mean, I wake up, thankful and just dumbfounded every day that these guys care enough to make this work. Because without them, it wouldn't be the case. It's a different thing. Like going back to being the only person running the hurdle shop. I remember, hiring my first employee, Ben. I mentioned him. He lives in Chicago. It's such to take that step to trust someone else in your own space is a big deal. And so, but I've done well with the people that we've hired, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, well,
They're
that's
great.
I know for me, it would be like my dream when I retire. That's like, I want to come work for Phil. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
be a part-time guy.
That would be excellent. Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
that's because obviously, for me, that would be now kind of I don't know if this is a trick question, or I don't like to really do stuff that's controversial, but when like used stuff comes in, do you guys get to cherry pick?
Sure. I mean, so at this point, any of the like normal stuff, is we've got everything like that, and so, I mean, very seldom, we put out incredible shit all the time. And I think like, if you look through any of our flip videos, somebody would be like, well, wow, I can't believe that made it through, the entire cast of people at Revolver.
Sure.
So, I mean, that does happen. And, but when stuff does come in that we want, there kind of is a pecking order.
Okay.
And it's funny because like, something will come in on a Saturday, and then, someone might slap a note like, Alex wants this, and like, well, if I want it more than that, I might take that,
Sure. Yeah.
And essentially like, there's been things that I've wanted, but I'm like, I know Matt really wants this more than me, and I know he's going to appreciate this more, and so I have no problem letting him snag it. And I keep stuff too. I collect a lot of things, but the stuff that I collect is probably stuff that nobody else wants. There's like I collect things that are related to baseball because I love baseball.
Sure.
So like, there's nobody else that's going to want baseball stuff. I mean, there's one guy that's a big Cardinals fan. I think I gave him this record that had Stan Musial on it. I'm like, this is awesome. You're going to love this.
Good.
You take this, or anything with art, like famous paintings by artists that I like, or
Sure.
I mean, that's just one little example. But I also, I'm a nerd for art, we talked about before we started. You were talking about maybe not being the biggest fan of people signing things, or maybe we talked about questioning the idea of how you have something signed. I love when people make their own artwork, or they draw on it. Like I have a whole wall in the store of things that I found inside of records.
Okay.
And just like weird letters, and I mean, it's almost like a small art project of mine. And some of these things, I mean, I could show you a letter that it'll make you feel something, it's a sad thing or whatever. And this is just once again, kind of a sidestep to what I collect, but I found different interesting things to collect within the hobby.
Yeah.
That I do, but that's it too. It's like, realistically speaking, there's so much stuff, and everyone likes so many different things that you and I and 3 other people could go through the same crate of new arrivals and new records, and we would all want different things.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's why it's kind of cool. Like, so essentially, no, like the cool stuff is not pillaged before it comes out. But I mean, yeah, of course we keep cool stuff that comes in when it,
Yeah.
Just, but we try to make money. We're there to make money.
Of course.
So,
Of course, you got to buy it, right? I mean, it's not like someone gets to pop it in their pocket for free, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God. We have rules about that. There's discounts and stuff, so that they don't. I'm historically very generous with that type of stuff too, because I get it. Like, you know, I've traded things. I traded. I have a butcher cover, Beatles butcher cover. That I traded one of my employees, you know, for something that he wanted that was really rare. You know, so I'm open minded. You know, like, you know, we just. You know, but it is a fun part of the thing. Stuff you never get sick of new collections coming in. That's just the most fun stuff. I mean, I just dug through some woman's house who had passed away the other day, and it wasn't the most exciting thing, but I found 30 cool records there. You know, and you know, I had to like sift through a bunch of shit, and but I mean, it's so fun. You know, I got a nice copy of Bitches Brew in there. Like, why was this sitting on this lady's shelf for 40 years or whatever? So, you know, that's just the kind of thing that I'm never going to get sick of that. You know?
Yeah. I had my wife's boss. I think it was her grandmother, her husband's grandmother had a box of records. So they're like, Greg, we know you're into this. Why don't you come over? You could take first crack at, you know, going through it. Yeah. And they pulled a couple things out. There was an Elvis 45. They know I like Elvis and stuff like that. So a couple good. So I'm going through Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. Bill Haley was the 10-inch Shake, Rattle, and Roll. The very first, what's considered the very first rock and roll record, right? Yeah. So I'm like, I'll take that. You know? And wasn't funny. I got it home. And I had bought this stack of stuff from them, and they said $20.
Wow!
So I got it home, and I start looking on Discogs, and I'm like, holy moly, this Bill Haley record's worth a lot more than $20. You know, just by itself.
Sure.
So I gave it to my wife. I says, you need to take this back.
Oh wow!
Give it to her.
That's really nice.
And people are like, you're stupid. And I said, look, if I went to a garage sale and it was somebody that I had no clue who they were, and they were dumb enough to sell. I said, but this is a friend, and I've known her boss for 25 years. I said, I can't do it. So she's like, Greg, so we made a little deal. You know, I got it still for a good price. But,
good. Yeah.
But she got some money out of it.
Yeah.
And she says, even my husband yelled at me. She says, why did you only take $20 for that?
Oh, that's hilarious.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's really nice of you to do that. I feel like just probably because I've always been a dealer, and it's like, man, I've gotten hosed sometimes where I'll pay money for stuff and it's not that good. You know, I mean, I have stories up the wazoo, but one time, somebody that I knew was running an estate sale. There was a dealer, like an antique dealer, who called me and said, I have an estate sale and there's a bunch of records and you can look at them before. And I remember like kind of blowing the guy off because I was like, it doesn't sound like it's that good. And then he called me and he was like, oh, are you going to come and do this? The estate sale's tomorrow. I was like, oh shit, you know what? I'll come right now. And it was in Kenmore. I don't even remember where, but it was in Kenmore. And I bought 100 records from him for $100. And there was this record by a psych group from the 60s called Music Emporium. And it was, you know, this one-off kind of private press. It's like 100 of them in the world. And I ended up selling it to a guy for $3,800 in cash.
Wow.
Which is wild. I mean, so, you know, that kind of thing. But I was just like, man, like for all the losses I've taken, this is one really good win.
Yeah, I guess, I guess in your position, you're like,
things don't come up like that.
Popcorn, you got to give up on the peanuts, right?
Exactly. And, you know, nowadays, you know, people really, it's so much easier to find out what you have and how much they're worth. And, you know, we have a percentage that we typically pay for things. And, you know, I mean, that does vary, you know, for a lot
of usually see people on their phones in your store, like checking discounts.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. And I'm happy. And that's another thing too. I mean, we could talk about pricing. I mean, out of all the employees I've ever had, you know, right now, at very least, there's that work at the shop regularly. There's only 3 of us that price records, and that's me, Matt, who we and Eric, and that's it. Like there's 3. It's something we take really seriously because it's a judgment call, but like at the same time, we argue that it's not. Like we have got it down to a science where this is what VG looks like. This is what VG Plus looks like, and you know, this is how it should be valued. This is an accurate way to value the record. And I would stand by the price that we have on anything in the store. And I do that all the time. Just the other day, a guy was like, oh, this record's $50. I mean, I've seen it online for cheaper. And I'm like, well, let me take a look at it because maybe it's a variant. Like we got that price from somewhere. We didn't just throw it out there. We didn't make it up. And sure enough, and I'm like, look, the median sale price of this record is $70. There's one listed in Canada for $50 right now. It's going to cost you $20 to come over the border. That's why we're coming up with $50. So
Right.
like, oh, okay, I get. So I mean, but that's anything. I mean, if I would even, if you ever see something in the store that you think is overvalued, I would love to discuss that. Like that's where I like to negotiate. When somebody comes up to me like, well, the corner has a ding and like it's VG condition and it's, I'm like, well, we've obviously considered. Do you think I missed that? Like this is what we fucking do, man. Like,
Right.
I know that that's what the value of it is, but sometimes things fluctuate, or sometimes we get it wrong. But like I said, there's only a couple of us doing this and we take it very seriously.
Yeah.
And it's something that, I mean, even just on our Discogs, we have thousands that very few negative, we just, and this is like, from shipping and, so like, there's a lot more, area that people could complain, so
Right.
we do pretty well with that. We take that very seriously.
Yeah. I know every now and then I want this record. I'm like, oh, it's coming from Revolver. And there was one that actually came from George from Apples and
Oh,
Oranges.
that's cool. Yeah.
And
yeah.
he's like, he called me up. He says, hey, if I drop it off to you, I see you're in the area, save me to pack it up. And I said, sure. And he comes to the door and he says, oh, that's you?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think that's super cool.
But I love when you see Discogs and people are like, near mint cover with a slight scratch.
Sure.
It's like, Well, that's not near mint.
That's not
then.
near mint. Yeah, no, exactly.
I don't care how many light scratches. It's not near mint anymore.
Right. And that's why. I mean, in that case, the feedback really does matter with Discogs. Like we take offense if somebody gives us a neutral or a negative. Like, Eric, one of his part of his job is to contact these people and say, hey, what can we do to make that right? Will you remove it? Because, I don't know that it's just, or we'll sometimes even, we can have things appealed through Discogs, and like 9 times out of 10, it's somebody that has less than 10 feedback and they don't really know how things go and how serious it is to give somebody a negative. And so they will usually side with us. We have like a blue check mark on there. So you get when you are a shop, which,
right. Okay.
And that's, I mean, like you're buying on Discog, you talk about like people listing things incorrectly. I mean, you really ought to not be a shop on there and do a poor job of listing. I mean, that's kind of your job.
Yeah. I know. I'm trying to think. I got a record that I was really looking for, and it came from your shop. Oh man. Yeah. A local record, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
That's pretty much all I buy now.
Sure.
Because I'm just, as you could say, I'm kind of running out of room. So it's, so I got to kind of focus down to.
No, I mean, there's enough of it out there. I mean, Matt, he on the weekends, he goes out, to, I don't know so much estate sales, but he'll go out far to, antique stores and he's a digger, man. He's out there finding rare local stuff. That's what he wants. He wants to meet the guy who played in it and he's got, 10 copies back at his house. That's the dream,
So I know there was one, what is it? Tiger, I think from Olean. It's real super rare.
Yeah.
I think you got one, but well, we're getting close to the top of the hour, Phil.
Sure. Yeah.
And this is Record Store Day. If you're listening to it for the first time on Saturday, April 18th, hopefully you've had fun listening to us while you're standing in a line. But what from your standpoint right now is like the holy grail record that everyone online is saying, this is the one that's going to be the one everyone wants to come and get?
Oh, man. For this, as an example, this year, for the first time, there isn't one that is like, huge. Oh, I mean, there's a Taylor Swift thing that she added last minute.
Okay.
Somebody today asked me about a Bruce Springsteen record. I don't even have, I don't think there's like one set thing, which is kind of cool.
Cool. Okay.
And I like that. I mean, every year there's Grateful Dead stuff. There's, some by this guy. So, but I really can say for the first time that there isn't one thing that I'm like, people are really looking for. I don't have but as an answer to that, I like that. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I'd rather it be more like, hey, come in and see what's up, and maybe there's more than one thing, or maybe, there isn't anything you want, but, this year there isn't one that I have gotten a lot of calls. It usually is a Taylor Swift thing. I mean, I have a hunch that her stuff is a little bit on the decline. I not to say that she doesn't have an unbelievable amount of fans, but I just feel like she's hit her peak. Yeah. And so we have to think about that when we order these things. And so I mean, but I mean, she trumps all. Like I feel like that's always going to be the one people are talking about, which is not necessarily the coolest thing. But I wish there was a better answer to that. But
right.
No,
Well, like we talked about, your baseball. I've collected comics in the past, and it's the same thing. They got to a point where comics were coming out with 8 variant covers of the same issue. And it's like, okay, how many do you buy? And it's like, if Taylor Swift's going to have 8 different album covers with the same record on the inside, how many can you afford to? And they're $35, $40.
Oh my
right?
God!
So,
that's just part of the game now. I feel like she no one does it like that, and she's just capitalizing on her market, I suppose. But like, I mean, why even suggest that people need to buy 4 copies? She did this record called Midnights, and like the back cover was 4 sides of a clock, like 4 different versions that you could buy. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
What kid is going to need 4 copies of this? There's like 1 different bonus track in each one. I mean, that's just not my bag. But
right.
I mean, if you want to talk from a marketing standpoint, that's wonderful. But it's not. I am through and through a business guy. I not to get into politics, but I believe in capitalism. I believe that money, but I'm also big on an art guy. And I don't, when money and art collide, that is not a good thing to me. I feel like it's very obvious when the money is the most important part of the art, that you've lost my interest. And that's where we're getting at with something like that. It's not about passion anymore. It's about making money. And that to me is it struggles for me to appreciate it as art,
Yeah. It's and I know there's a whole other conversation out there in internet land about how record store days kind of, the purists are like, that's not the same way as it used to be, and there's too many people. And
there's problems with it. I mean, that might be a different episode. Maybe after it's all over.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of problems with it. There was some internet, YouTubing recently by a guy around Black Friday, that there was just, he had gotten the shaft from them because he was protesting some amount of record store day. And it was kind of interesting because he was in the same boat as us. We're not a huge shop, but we're not a really, really small shop. And there's a lot of, like, we end up with a lot of product that doesn't sell, and we got to discount it, and we can't return it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of, there's a lot of problems with it, but it makes everybody money, and so a lot of people just don't talk about the problems, and essentially, that's what it's all about. I suppose, is helping, indie shops make some money, but as a whole, getting people excited about record store day releases is an awesome thing.
Yeah.
There's been some things over the years that have come out that, I mean, I don't know, but that I've just been so excited for, and I really love it.
Well, and it certainly has opened up record collecting. I mean, at the very beginning, it was like, come to a record store and just, again, you talked about, collecting for artwork. That's how I started collecting records, because when I grew up, my brother had all the records because he had the record player. Yeah. So I didn't have any, right? But then, 20 years ago, I started collecting, and it's like, I could go to Record Theater for $1. Right. And get a print, right? So I could get a Molly Hatchet with a Frank Frazetta on the front. I could get a Harry Chapin, who was done by Milton Glaser.
Milton Glaser, yeah. Cool.
And there was a, who's the guy with the Ninas on the Aerosmith, Hirschfeld, did one, and you had Roger Dean doing all those Asia albums. So I was buying, I was going in and just buying the ones that had the artists on it, for $1. It cost me more for the frames, and of course then it started to go up from there. I mean, Record Theater had a rack as big as, that wall over here. I mean, just one deep. And that was about all they had.
All the vintage.
It's like, wow. And now I just saw that, I can't remember how many billions the record industry is making.
Yeah. I mean, every year I feel like I see an article saying it's exceeded what it's ever done in the past. I mean, I mean, physical media is not what it was in the 90s. It's not, they're not selling millions and millions of copies of these things. But, in the face of digital music and media, there's always going to be people that want to own the things that they love. Right. And, vinyl is it's probably the coolest physical media. Like, I feel like that's kind of safe to say, but I mean, even now with kids it was this kind of phenomenon with CDs kind of rolling back.
I was just going to ask you about that because I
yeah.
had heard that this past Christmas in 2025, CD players were all the rage for kids.
Yeah, I mean, because records have become kind of too
Yes.
expensive in a lot of cases. CDs are super cheap.
Right.
They're $1 to $5 for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of young folks are buying cars that have CD players in them.
Sure.
Like when I bought a car, it had a tape player in it.
Right.
I bought Working Man's Dead, American Beauty on one tape. It was both albums on Grateful Dead. And I wanted to have tapes. I bought tapes from Bob the Record Guy. I bought Magical Mystery Tour on tape, because I wanted to have these tapes. And, that's why they're buying CDs. They're it's physical media, but you can take it to your house and you can play it on the stereo of your house. But records, it's a commitment. You know what I mean? Like you have to put in some money. Usually somewhere around $500. To have a nice setup and turntable and receiver, speakers. Unless you get lucky and someone hands you down a nice vintage Technics or something like that. It's a lot more of an investment.
Right.
But CDs, man, I mean, you can buy it, listen to it on the way, and toss it out. For $3, you could buy another one in the next town. It doesn't matter, but it is cool.
Yeah. Well, and I know for me, being the collector, if I want local music in the 90s, 2000s, they weren't making vinyl.
Yeah.
So if I want that artist, I gotta get
on
the CD.
Yeah. And it's there is like the slow, if it's popular enough, the 90s stuff has been reissued onto record. But there's like, I always say that records are paired together with nostalgia. And like somebody, a millennial like me, we're nostalgic for 90s music, but that music was not made on vinyl. So like I said, all of it though, now all of the popular stuff has been.
Right.
I mean, but even every week there'll be somebody, can you get this particular, I'm like, that was never even made on record. You can't, it doesn't exist. And I'm sorry. But that's absolutely true.
Well, and again, some of the local stuff, they'll never press that on vinyl.
Never.
Right. So it's like, if you want it,
gotta have
that's
it
why
on CD.
I've had conversations with some guys. I'm like, you threw all your CDs out or you got rid of them?
Yeah.
There's CDs like Stray Cats. There's some CDs that are only in CD.
Yeah.
Or I love to buy the Japanese pressings.
Oh my God, or SACD. I mean, I bought a collection of 1,000, super audio CDs. Like, I know that's not something I can explain necessarily in 10 seconds, but essentially like audiophile quality CDs. I know that you know about that, but
right.
But that's a different world in itself. I mean, you might pay $100 for a Stevie Wonder CD because it's the best sounding audio of this ever made, because there isn't like an audiophile LP, or something like that. So I don't know, it's interesting stuff. And I feel like physical media is always going to be around. There's going to be people that want to own the art that they love, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Well, Phil, I know we could probably keep going and talk forever on this. I appreciate you coming down. I can't thank you enough. And for everyone who's tuned in, we hope you've had just as much fun and hopefully maybe lit a spark under you to go out on record store day and or just go to your local record store, grab some records, grab some CDs, grab some physical copies, and enjoy them, because there's more to the music than just the music. Sometimes there's the artwork and the liner notes and all the stuff that comes with the entire package that just lets you enjoy the hobby and enjoy the craft. So again, for everyone who's tuned in, we're glad you tuned in. And as always, you can find the podcast where you get your podcasts at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audible, thebuffalohive.com, YouTube, and of course, you can always find the podcast at rockabillygreg.com, where it's all about the music, and we'll have some links to Phil's stores, so you can go shop online if you can't get out to the store, and support him that way. Just see what he's got going, and we'll get his Facebook links up there, because I know you got some different stuff there, and you're always posting, constantly posting new stuff, and and definitely get down to Elmwood to see a live show, because they're cool.
It's really a beautiful place.
It's a cool experience.
They really, you can only say so much. Seeing it is where it's at.
Yeah. So again, thanks, Phil. Appreciate
Thank you for
it.
having me. This has
been
been
everyone
great.
who's tuned in. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Right, have a good one.
In the Flamingo Lounge is made possible in part by CatsLikeUs.com, your online store for authentic vintage clothing and accessories. Buffalo Ironworks, an intimate live music venue and bar located in the Cobblestone District in downtown Buffalo. And by Diamond Hawk Golf Course and Pub, Western New York's premier golf course, restaurant, and banquet facility. At the Hawk, the bar is hopping year-round with live music every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and some other nights, too. Tune in for a new episode every Saturday at 9 a.m. EST at rockabillygreg.com, where it's all about the music. Bark, Zoe, bark. Good girl.